In this video, I'm going to show you why, in my opinion, this is the final cycle to build real wealth from crypto before institutions take it over completely. I'll walk you through the data, I'll show you what BlackRock, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are building right now behind the scenes. I'll break down why I believe the Fed will be forced to print more than 2020, and I'll give you my personal month-by-month timeline for how I see this entire cycle playing out. Then at the end, I'll do a full Q&A answering the most important questions you guys have. For everyone new, I'm CryptoGit, made over 5,000 X in crypto. Here's when I told everyone to buy at the most fearful time last cycle during the lockdowns. The coins that I shared went basically to the moon. I told everyone to sell at the top. It's all on my previous one of my YouTube videos, so let's get it started. So why today with the situation with the actual economy is much different than it was in 2026. This is such an important thing because everyone is seeing what's happening right now and think like it's going to be the same as 2020. In terms of what's coming of patterns, I believe it will be the same, but honestly the situation into the macro is much worse, and this is why I believe the next sprint will be much bigger than it is. So let's get slowly to every point so you can understand where I'm coming from and why I say that thing. So first, in 2020 we had basically a virus nobody expected, all the world shut down. But before that, economy was in a good shape, right? Consumer sentiment wasn't destroyed, unemployment wasn't through the roof, oil wasn't through the roof, and we have less debt than we have today. Also, we have no AI, crazy spending, and that's how the economy looked like in 2020. Today, we have a war, we have an energy crisis, which oil prices are going through the roof. Economy is kind of in the worst shape ever because for the first time ever, consumer sentiment is at the record low. Why is it that this is so important? Because consumer drives more than 50% of GDP growth. And if you destroy the people that are going to spend in the economy, how the economy is going to grow? Jobs are revised down. I'm going to go and slowly touch all the points here. Oil spiked through the roof. We have more debt, and AI needs excess funding, meaning that I think OpenAI is predicted to become profitable by 2030. But how are they going to find the money? Like AI is spending like crazy, which government is funding all the time. We have private credit problems, and the situation is much bigger than it was in 2020. Now slowly I'll go on all the points and tell you why the data on what Fed showed is much different than the reality and how they use that kind of thing to manipulate people, and people fall for the narrative. First of all, I'll go with the employment. Now, after all of this, I'll go to the timeline and the most important questions and what I expect for this cycle. But I want you to understand, first of all, why this happens so you can get the full context behind my thoughts. So first of all, I'll go with the 2025 job numbers data, which was crazy, and you'll see why. So what happened when 2025 started? The first few months, January, February 2025, they reported amazing job creation. Like they said, we have 130k, 150 in February, March the same, April similar numbers. So everyone was like, yeah, economy is in the best shape ever, right? Because you saw this data. Now what happened is that this data was actually revised later and the numbers were much lower. And you know, when the end of 2025 came, the number was 180k, 181k for the whole year. So not per month, it was the entire year. And January alone was revised negative. So why that happened? That happened because the data always the number is wrong, because how BLS reports the job is around, let's say, 10 million businesses in US. They survey like 670k because they can't ask all of them, and let's say 6.7% of them responds. Only 6% of them respond on time. The rest is estimated based on a birth-death model that they have. Like they assume how many new business are this year compared to last year, and that's how they basically added. Then 1 year later they have the IRS payroll tax that shows basically the truth. So usually the first numbers are just a small report, then later they get revised. So They look like they're great at the beginning, but then when the year ends, they see how the economy is destroyed, right? So that's what happened in 2025. That's why people felt for this narrative, because they saw what happened and they'd be like, yeah, it's amazing economy. Then what happened? Look how you recognize that economy is in the worst shape, and it's really bad. So 2024 we have 1.5 million job creation. In 2025 we have 181k. It's 87% less. You see how you see that the trend is going bad. If you see month by month, you'll fall for the narrative. So the same kind of stuff is happening today. So today, I think for January, for this kind of year, they reported good amounts of employment. But look when 2026 ends, how it's gonna be similar like this, and they're gonna panic like crazy and gonna be like, oh shit, it's a really bad moment. So consumer sentiment, as I said, is at the lowest point ever, lower than 2020, which was the virus, lower than 2008 recession, I think lower than 2002. Can you imagine how bad the consumer is today? We also have a private credit crisis, which a lot of firms are not allowing their investors to basically get their money out for a certain percentage, and that's a big issue because it shows that something is breaking into the system. Housing sales are at 30-year low, like mortgage rates are going through the roof, and if Fed, like a lot of people say, they're gonna hike the rate, which I don't think so, and I'm gonna explain right now, is gonna be an issue. Banks are kind of sitting at crazy losses due to the high interest rates. Remember what happened with a few years ago, like a lot of banks got collapsed and they need to be bailed out from banks. These are all basically the problems that are today into the economy. Now, what we are experiencing today is kind of similar with 2008 recession. I'm going to explain why and how that occurred, so you can understand right now why Fed can't hike interest rates, and what the new the new chairman of the Fed is likely going to do. So what happened in 2008 recession? So in June 2006, we have basically the rate peaks at 5%. They stopped hiking, economy looked fine. Then by next year, by February, that's where things started to crack. So we have first basically the subprime cracks appear. We have HSBC massive losses, Fed stays, it's normal. Then by August, by summer, credit market froze, banks stopped lending to each other, which was a big issue. Then by September, Fed finally cut the rates to 4.7%. They were 6 months late. So the problem showed by February, they were 6 months late. So Fed is always late to react. Same for every time that they do into the market. Same for, remember 2023. The inflation was coming down, but they still kept the rate high for a long period of time because they couldn't recognize the right data. So what happened? Then what they did later, the emergency cut to 3% because it was the problems with the economy. Then in April 2008, basically a year later approximately, they stopped cut at 2%, right? Why? Because they saw that inflation was at 5%, right? So they watched the wrong indicator. So in 2008, inflation touched 5% and oil touched $147, I think so, yeah, $150, which is much worse than it is today during the war. So yeah, then later on in September we have the biggest famous collapse. Then what they did in December, they cut it to zero. So why they make a mistake? They make a mistake because they couldn't recognize that the economy started to see problems 6 months earlier. And you can't hike the rates when the economy is bad, because you're just gonna damage the economy 2x more. And you saw how they couldn't prevent the collapse because they were late. So they reacted late, and that's why they couldn't prevent the collapse. Let me show you into the chart. Let me go to the S&P in 2008 and show you the correct data so you can create a better idea. So this is 2008. You know what they did? Problems started to appear since I think beginning of 2007, somewhere here. That's where problems started to appear. Then by September, August 2007, they lowered the rates, and then we saw one of the, the rallies of the stock market. That usually happens because people see Fed like, oh, it's gonna come and save us. Then the stupidest mistake that they did at this stage is this thing. In April 2008, they stopped cutting. So see April 2008, what they did. I think it was somewhere, I think somewhere here. So they stopped cutting here when they needed to actually lower more the rates and help and stimulate the economy. Because they were late, they allowed the economy and the recession to hit. And they still cut it at this time, but they couldn't prevent the collapse because, as I said, they were late and they watched the inflation. What many people don't get is that inflation is always the last indicator that comes on a business cycle. So inflation always lags, meaning that, for example, let me go and show you with BTC. With BTC, there's something really great that you need to understand. They started printing money here, right? All the money. Then inflation started to appear somewhere here. Let me show you. Inflation started to show the signs somewhere here in January, February, March 2021. That's where it started to go above some thresholds. Like it started to go from 2% to 5%. These were signs. Like if Fed were much earlier, they couldn't actually prevent. They could probably prevent the dips and be more reactive, and we could have gone quicker. So they were again like month late. In November 2021 they cut the rates, but inflation here, what it reached 9%. If you remember, inflation at the top in 2021, it reached 9%. So they were late. Inflation signs were showing here, they reacted late. So same for the bottom. What happened? The bottom of the crypto was this kind of level here in 2022, and inflation was coming down, right? Because that's what happens. But they couldn't see that it was coming down. So what they did, they just allowed high interest rates to stay for a long period of time. And they cut interest rates somewhere, I think, near 2024. Correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around that. But the bottom was much earlier. So if you waited for them to confirm that we're gonna cut the rates because inflation is coming down, you were late. So understand that inflation is a lagging indicator. And it lags because of the data, as I showed you with the Fed. It lags because they actually don't have the right tools to calculate the data. And let me explain to you why you don't actually go and hike interest rates in the collapsing economy. Here's a funny story. European Central Bank did a stupid thing. So what they did, Fed was wrong, but European Central Bank just destroyed things 2x more. So what happened? In July 3, 2008, Europe raised rates because they saw that inflation is 5% and oil is basically $150. And the issue with that is that, as I said even earlier, if you go and hike interest rates in a collapsing economy, you're just gonna do 2x more damage. And that's what they did. So what happened? July 3, 2008, they cut the rates. They raised the rates, sorry. Then 2 months later, you saw the Lehman Brothers collapse it. And 3 months later, they measured emergency cut rates back down. You see how they completely messed up? So they basically hiked the rates. They knew that they messed up because they destroyed completely the economy. Then what they did is basically emergency cut it again. So at this stage, people that are saying that the new chairman will hike the rates due to high interest rates, due to high inflation from the oil price, you have to realize that it's going to be the same mess that it was in 2008. And you have also to realize something. This war is temporarily. There's a ton of oil in this world. So when the war is over and kind of the energy crisis is over, this price is going to go down like crazy. And currently, I think they made a deal with US, because I'm recording a video a bit earlier today. So my point is this. You don't hike rates into a collapsing economy. Even if, let's say, the next chairman will do that, I think that would be temporarily, and that would just destroy the markets a bit more. So maybe it does it right now in summer and does the same thing that Europe did in 2008. So they hike it, then later they're gonna cut it, because as I said, the economy is much worse than it was before, and that's a really bad thing. And something that many people don't understand is that currently we are in the analog debt system, but what the exit is crypto, and many people don't get how it will play out. I'm sure you have seen how people have been saying like, yeah, America using crypto to pay off their debt, but no one is understanding how the timeline and why it will happen. I'll leave you a video at the top right here. It's one of the most watched videos on my YouTube, where I go in depth and I explain what's gonna happen. I'm sure only less than 1% are talking about this, so definitely pay attention on that and watch it later. So what many people don't understand about the inflation part is that they think like inflation is something that Fed or the big dogs or the ones that control this, the biggest assets manager care. No, inflation is what they don't give a shit, because you have to realize of something. Inflation doesn't hurt everyone the same way. The one that gets hurt the most is the average person. Like the top 1%, they don't care about inflation. So the reason why Fed actually cut the interest rates basically in a recession, and they didn't prioritize inflation, is because they prioritized the economy. So what happened in 2007 here at this time, anyway, so what happened in 2007, because I forgot the slide, Fed actually went and cut interest rates when inflation was 5% and we have oil through the roof. So it was much worse than it is today, and they still cut it, because what they said we're gonna prioritize the economy rather than inflation. So to everyone thinking that inflation is something that is gonna stop the Fed, you gotta really think in depth, because I'll just take you some data which you can see by yourself. So what happened? Top 1% net worth in US is like 13.7 million. So if stocks go up just 1%, they make 137k, right? Let's go to the middle class. The middle class net worth is like 200k. And let's say you have 200k in stocks, which is unrealistic, but let's say you have it. It goes 1%, you make 2k. 2k, it gets eaten month by month by higher gas, groceries, and rent. So inflation destroys the middle class and the lower class. Inflation doesn't touch the elite level, the ones that control all the assets, because that's how they benefit the most. They want the assets to go up, and when the economy is going to collapse, you think they're going to prioritize you to care for you for not getting hit with inflation, or for them to make money? That's what you gotta realize. Everything I'm sharing in this video is what I'm covering every day in my free Telegram community. If you like this video, I'm sure you love my free community. I also review what coins you're holding and give you my honest opinion on them. If you got any question, you can ask one-on-one me there. And you can join by clicking the link in my bio or check the pinned comment. It's all free, and let's get back to the video. And you can see, for example, what happened after Fed printed trillions of dollars in 2020. Money supply went through the roof. It took basically 200 years to create 15 trillion. Then 18 months, they added 6.3 trillions. And for the first time in a long time, we saw inflation 9%. But do you really believe it was that? So dollar lost 20% of purchasing power, and the assets that benefit the most was crypto and Bitcoin. So what I believe will be the narrative, and this is such an important thing, what I believe will be the narrative for the next sprint is AI, and not much people are talking about this. Why I tell you that? I believe they're gonna use something new. I believe they're gonna use a new term that is new. I don't think they're gonna use QE, because everyone knows QE is money printing. So they're gonna use something different. They always invent something different. For example, a few months, I think in December 2025, Fed launched RMP, reverse management purchases. They changed the word from QE because they're gonna be like, yeah, but it's buying T-bills, not treasury bonds. So people fighting all day long on social media, is this QE or not QE? But that's what they want, because they're not dumb to tell you we're gonna print money and you recognize and buy all the assets. They want you fighting together. So you'd be like, it's QE, it's not QE. And then when assets pump, you're gonna be like, oh, it was money printing. You think people understood what QE was here in 2020 in March? No one was talking about that. Everyone was talking about QE when we were going up at those levels here, somewhere here. So same for today. Don't expect for people to understand and be like, yeah, it's normal. Everyone knows it's QE. So why I believe the narrative of the next sprint is AI. The AI has a big spending problem. Like the capex in 2026 is like $700 billion. And the revenue, it's like 37 billion. Like it's like 19 to 1. So take a look at what happened in 2025. For example, in 2025, we had the DeepSeek, which was the ChatGPT version from China. I think it was valued around 50 billion. OpenAI is valued at 1 trillion, guys. Why I tell you this? I tell you this because I do believe the next sprint will be a lead for, they're gonna say, like national security to win the AI race with China. It's like the perfect example to print trillions. In my own opinion, they want to put data centers on space because there's much more energy there and they're gonna market as an energy crisis. And you have to realize that this is not a conspiracy or something that, yeah, maybe it's gonna happen, maybe it's not gonna happen. You have to realize that the majority of GDP growth came from AI last cycle. So this is a sector that they can't actually leave and just allow destroyed, because it's a sector that the entire economy is running on. If it wasn't for AI in 2025, economy and stocks would not be where they are today. It's mostly Nvidia and the AI giving and driving all the productivity in the US. So now, after you understood the problem, what I believe will be the next sprint, now I want to share the most important part on how I see the 2026 playing out. Because it's funny, but no one could imagine that the asset class that Trump supported the most, crypto, would be down when Nasdaq was up, stocks went up, commodities went up, and everything pumped. Like no one could imagine, because in 2020 we were the fastest growing asset class, and right now you're telling me that when the government supports it, we're gonna go down. So I'm gonna show you exactly the timeline, how I see it playing out, and it's gonna be an interesting perspective for you to understand. So I'm gonna go and share first some important marks that we have this year. So I think by November we'll have basically the Senate election. So why is it important? So let me put you the dates here, because I'm gonna show you exactly how I think this cycle playing out. And then on 2028 we have the presidential election. I think it's end of this year, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'll leave 2028. So this is a timeline that we have right now for crypto. Everything has gone up, right? So why 2025 was a brutal year? It was a brutal year because we had tariffs, and basically we had this big October crash that something broke in crypto, like a market maker, which we don't know what and what happened, which was strange. Anyway, I'm not going to jump on that, but I'm going to tell you something. In 2025, the majority of people were wrong, right? The thing is that everyone started 2025 euphoric. I remember how every kind of person in this world started thinking like, oh, it's going to go through the roof. Trump administration is here. The meme coin of Trump came and everyone got disappointed because it just dipped. I honestly believe we needed to go up in the first Q1 because it kind of showed exactly the narrative of why. But he bring the tariffs in the marketplace and it destroyed everything. Then on summer, when everyone knows the quote "sell in May and go away," we went up, which is it's strange. So, and at the end of the year, when everyone expected to go up, we went down. So why I tell you this? I tell you this because the most expected outcome from the crowd is usually not the right one. And right now, everyone, you know what they're waiting? They're waiting to buy probably 40K at kind of those levels due to the 4-year cycle. So everyone is talking for the 4-year cycle and everyone is waiting to buy in Q4 2026. The reason why I think that makes no sense is because you have to ask yourself, when in the history the crowd has bought a bottom and sell the top? Never. In any financial market, the crowd never buys the bottom and the top. And right now you're telling me they're going to buy in Q4 2026? Honestly, I don't think so. So here's my perspective about it. This will be the biggest IPO year. Why I tell you this? I tell you this because many people actually are not paying attention at this data. The reason why is you have to realize that when we usually have the biggest IPOs, I see in my eyes no incentives from assets managers and from the people that control the Wall Street and all the government sector. They don't benefit much by destroying the economy. They benefit much by allowing the economy to go up so they can collect the most funding. So next month we have the SpaceX IPO, right? Then it's rumored that we'll have the OpenAI probably by end of this year and Anthropic. This will be the biggest IPO year. And if you check, for example, what happened in the previous cycles, you can see that biggest IPO in last cycle was 2021. The crash came 2022. In the 2000, the crash came 1 year after the biggest IPO mania. So I'm just analyzing here, not from the market perspective. I'm analyzing the market just from the standpoint, like if you are BlackRock, Vanguard, and the people who control all this world, how you benefit the most. You benefit by inventing a crash maybe in summer and then allowing things to go up, or allowing things to go up, having all the IPOs, then you crash later. Now, you might have this perspective in mind and be like, why they not crash it right now, put it to 40 or 30k level somewhere here, then they buy it all. The reason why I think this is unrealistic is because if the crash will come, you have to realize this thing I told you. Economy is much worse than it was in 2020. So today you need more printing than they did in 2020, meaning that you risk more by crashing the economy because you don't know how quick you can recover that. And I think if Fed is gonna print money and do QE here, somewhere at these levels here, maybe before the elections or in Q4, I think it's too early, because it means that, let's say, after that the market will only go up till 2028, right? I think that's what everyone expects, and I think it's pretty unrealistic because, as I said, the big guys, I'm gonna call the big guys BlackRock, Vanguard, and the ones who control all the assets, right? The big guys, they risk a lot because they don't know how big the dip is gonna be. They're gonna eat all the losses, by the way, on SpaceX, AI, and Anthropic. Then they risk the elections because they have the Senate election and Trump has no motive for that. And then they have to aim for a quick recovery. So if there's going to be a dip, it needs to be recovered quick, but it means QE will come so soon. I don't think the QE will come so soon. I expect it probably QE, in my own eyes and in my own opinion, should probably come Q1, Q2, 2027. Why I think so? I think so because at that time we'll have peak euphoria. IPOs would be already over. The big guys would have collected all their fees and made all the money, and it would make a total sense because in my own eyes, if we actually go up from here till maybe Q1, Q2 2027, the euphoria will be through the roof. So if we do something similar like this, we go up till probably February 2027, we are maybe at all-time highs. I'm not gonna touch and go to a certain target for BTC. Then the biggest crash comes. Maybe something with AI breaks by this time here. Maybe one company shows that they have big losses. Maybe China launches a new DeepSeek version which completely destroys the US and shows that they basically are producing much cheaper and they're quicker in the AI, and Trump's be like, yeah, it's a big issue, we need to print for the security. Then maybe the big crash occurs. Maybe we dip like a lot in stock market, maybe even 30%. Then what happens? Probably by summer or late summer 2027 we go up, and that's where the basically QE comes. That's where the QE comes. And then from that moment we go through the moon later on, and we pump till the presidential election in 2028. That, in my own opinion, is the best setup for the assets manager and for the Trump administration. Why? Because Trump administration, if things go up, he has a motive and he has more reasons to win the Senate, because he said, look, I won the war, I made the deal, I found the peace in the Middle East, stock market is through the roof, and everyone is happy, right? But if you invent the crisis here and you invent like, and you create like one of the biggest crashes right now before his elections, he loses everything, and he has said by himself like, look, I can probably get impeached. So, but if you do it in 2027, and then you'll be like, I'll solve the war, I'll solve the big crisis of AI that it was one of the biggest in history, and stocks are at all-time highs, he has the best motive for him to stay in the marketplace, basically, and also asset managers to make the most money. Same for him and same for all the ones that control this world. So, as I said, I'm constantly thinking like, what if they crash right now in summer and then the recovery goes quick? But in my eyes, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying it can happen, but it's unrealistic because we risk a lot. That's the whole idea. So, and you have to think about this. What I'm saying right now, so we go up from here till middle 2027 or Q1, Q2, is something no one predicts. No one is predicting. If this were the scenario that everyone was predicting, I would be more cautious. But everyone is predicting this thing, that we go down, then Q4 2026 we buy, then we saw up only. Like as I said, why big assets manager? Ask yourself, why big assets manager gonna leave all the money on the table and reward you to buy the bottom? I was basically asking and trying to gather all the data, and there were just like some numbers so you can create a better idea. I was asking Cloud, pretend you're BlackRock, Vanguard, and all the people that control all the money in this world. How do you win more in terms of money? You win more by inventing a crash right now, and I also had the Trump administration. So pretend you're all those guys that control the world. How you benefit the most? When you crash the economy right now, then we go later this year, or we pump till Q1, Q2 2027, then we create the biggest crisis, then we move from there. And the answer was this one. And it wasn't just because of the scenario that I told you, it's because of the money. So here's the interesting part. The AI told me, considering all the data that they have from Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and all the guys that are on SpaceX and OpenAI IPOs, showed that basically, if they're gonna invent a crisis right now, they possibly can make like around not more than 100 billion, 200 billion dollars if they do a crisis, because you're gonna eat all the losses if you invent a crisis in the biggest IPO year. Like, why you gotta do that? AI is 50%, nearly 50% of GDP growth. You're not gonna allow the biggest IPO ever that is pushing America through the roof, and you're gonna destroy that? Makes no sense. So how much they could make if they do the thing that I told you? They could make close to $1 trillion. So the data show they could make 500 billion to $1 trillion. So I think that lines up perfectly and makes the most sense, because if you see things going up from here till end of year or beginning 2027, you know what people will call here? It's a super cycle, I told you so, everyone is through the roof. The euphoria will be like crazy, and people will be like, yeah, we're gonna go up till 2028, and then the big crash will come. And I tell this because I've been saying since last year that this is a super cycle. Yes, maybe the selling point played out exactly like the 4-year cycle, but that's how they're gonna trick you. You think the bottom is gonna be Q4 2026? I get that, it might happen. But I think it's pretty unrealistic, analyzing from the standpoint of what the crowd is expecting and how the big guys benefit from all of this. And honestly, this is my prediction, right? So what you have to realize is that you can't rely on predictions, even for myself. Just because I know this, I'm not playing 100% in one scenario. So I've always said, it's not about how right you are, but it's about how you position. Like, I can predict tomorrow 100 times moves on Bitcoin, right? Maybe at this stage, maybe I'm a trader, I predict all these moves here, but does it matter if I miss a 50x? I'm still a loser, right? I lost. So what you have to realize is that right now, you can just ask yourself, do a simple thing. For the coins that I want to buy, is the upside bigger than the downside? Just ask this thing, is the upside bigger than the downside? And I'm sure for the majority, the answer is yes. And you know what people do? They still sit in cash. They be like, yeah, I'm gonna wait to buy the bottom. Like, it's a simple formula. When upside is bigger than the downside, why you gotta be like a superhero that you be like, yeah, I'm gonna try to buy at the bottom? Because you know better than me that you can't. And it's very unrealistic. I know, because I've done those things and I tell from experience. It's like the thing that traders try to convince themselves, like, yeah, I'm gonna be 1%, I'm not gonna be like 90% that lose. Then they never be it, because as I said, it's different when you predict something and it's different when it comes. And even I'm 100% confident, guys, even if we see a dip probably to 40, the ones waiting to buy those dip are probably not going to buy, because as I said, it's much easier to predict something than react when it comes. Because if the environment is here, you'd be like, yeah, maybe I should postpone it because it's something is breaking, the economy is not doing great, something, I'm gonna wait for Fed to print money or do something. So all those things hit on your mind. You think like you're gonna do it, but it's just a plan. Once it comes, actually it's much different. So why I tell you this? I tell you this because, as I said, you have to position, not just follow the predictions. For myself, I'm more than 90% allocated. So if I'm right and we go up from here, I make the most money. And if I'm wrong and we go down and maybe we have the crisis, which can happen, don't get me wrong, I just put the rest and I just wait. So you have to realize that you have to not sacrifice the thing you care the most. So what is the thing you care the most? If it's the upside, then you should have more allocated than the downside. If the thing you care the most is preserving the capital and you have overinvested, then maybe play with percentages. Put like, I don't know, put 40%, 60% in cash. But don't be dumb to just listen to what I said or listen to someone said and be like, yeah, this guy called this right, this called this wrong. It's not about predicting. It's about basically positioning wisely. So you might lose 8 times, then you might win only 1 time and make all the money. That's why I'm saying that this is the most important part you gotta understand. And now I'm gonna answer, guys, some of the important questions that I tried to actually get from the Q&A from the last time. So the first one is the price being kept low because ABTC USA is mining? I don't think so. Like, for example, if it's about mining, in Iran, you can mine basically Bitcoin at the lowest cost ever. So I don't think it's about mining. I think it's about lows. By the way, I forgot to tell you guys on my prediction that by somewhere in the end of this year, DTCC, which controls all the stock on US over $100 trillion, is going to tokenize everything in crypto. Like, all of this is not random. Like, we have so many things coming end of the year that, in my own opinion, it's unlikely to invent a crash right now and then we go up. So I do believe the price is being kept low on purpose. Honestly, it never happened before that the stocks, gold, and all basically assets to go up and crypto to go down. I think it's all done on purpose to make people tire people and to make them believe that the cycle is never going to play out. Look at today, everyone is waiting for a crash. Isn't that funny, guys? Imagine if the scenario plays out like I said, that we go up from here. And again, when I say we go up from here, it doesn't mean we go today. It might also take till August, might also take a little bit, a few more weeks, or June. I'm not saying it's going to take it tomorrow. So if it takes from here, basically, you know what they're doing right now? They're telling you, war is here, inflation is here, Fed is gonna hike the rates, so you wait for a dip. Like, can you imagine how crazy it is? Like, they don't want you to buy at the bottom. That's what they bring you all the time, so you don't buy. You think you could have bought here? When I told people at this time to buy, at all this time after 2022 and 2023, you know what people told me at this stage here? All the finance guys were messaging me on IG or replying to me and being like, are you stupid for telling people to buy crypto? How you can buy crypto when Fed actually has high interest rates? Crypto never pumped with high interest rates. And they were right on their thesis. Crypto never pumped with high rates. But for the first time they did it because it was inflation lagging and those guys didn't understand. So when you're early on something, they will make fun of you. Keep that thing in mind. So based on your knowledge, how far close are we to alt season? Down 80-90%, tired as fuck. That's what they want, the old sentence. Trust me, I'm tired too. No one is happy to actually be to see, for example, Ethereum down after 5 years. Like, no one could imagine. Honestly, even for myself, I could never imagine that Ethereum would make an all-time high. But again, it is what it is. A lot of people just push negativity online and be like, yeah, it's the worst, it's this, it's that. Do you bring anything positive by being negative? you're just gonna miss probably the next rally because you don't believe it. So alt season is definitely gonna come. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. We need this chart to go up, man. Without ETH making a new all-time high, it's very hard. If you check, for example, the biggest altcoins performance from last cycle came exactly once ETH broke new all-time highs. For example, let's go, the date is 1 February 2021. Let's take Solana. Sol USDT 1 February 2021. So look how Solana went in December. Then January, look, February, look how the rally started exactly in February. So before that, the price was kind of struggling. After that, it went through the moon. So if Bitcoin is the index for the crypto market, it is the index for altcoins. So it's gonna come. I don't know the time. I can't say the time because it's all based on this chart, but I can say as soon as this makes a new all-time high, we're gonna see things taking off. But again, most people hear what I say and be like, yeah, I'm gonna wait to buy here. But if you're gonna wait to buy here, you're gonna miss the bottom and you're gonna be probably late. Like if people are buying an altcoin today and probably, let's say it is at this level, when if it's at all-time is probably gonna be here. So all this gap here that you miss probably might be a 20x or 10x. So you're gonna have people which are 10x more in money than you, and that makes a big difference. Even a 2, 3, 4x more than you is a big position, because it's a big difference, because they're much earlier than you and they're gonna dump on you, so you have no advantage. That's why allocating when it feels bad, when it feels like tired, as you say, that's what you want to buy. The good investing at the right time is boring. It's not fun. There's nothing fun. You think it was fun buying here? No. Good investing is boring. You doubt it. You'll be like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I should wait more. That's the best time to buy. When is the best month to sell BTC? Preparing for a dump and buy low in October. You see how I told you guys, everyone is waiting this thing. And it's nothing wrong with you guys waiting this thing, but do you really believe that you'll have an edge by thinking like everyone? Everyone is actually waiting to basically dump and buy it low in October. And even if, let's say, a crash happens, and even if you want to do this strategy, I never understood you guys that you want to trade. Like, for example, in my own opinion, I think till 2028, Bitcoin will touch $1 million. Why you gotta play the game of, yeah, I'm gonna dump it and I'm gonna rebuy it back lower? I know it sounds amazing because you feel like, yeah, I'm doing something great, but let me tell you something that Vanguard actually said last cycle. Many people don't know this. Vanguard went after the pandemic and studied all the top portfolios from 2020. And you know what they studied? You know what they saw? The portfolios that made the most money from 2020 were the ones that never sold but just rebought it. So basically, if you bought it, they never sold it, they just bought more. The ones that try to be like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna sell, I'm gonna buy, they never made the money. 1% of the ones that made the money, they just DCA'd. So continue to hodl, man, and just DCA. Don't try to act like a superhero. I sold this, I did this, I did that. I know, because I talk from experience. You know how many people I know that acted like smart ass guys for predicting dips here, for example. I know a lot of people that felt like genius. I told you I predicted this dip, I told you I predicted this, I told you I predicted this. Then when the next rally came, they looked like fools. Because as I said, it's not about what you predict. It's about what you win when you're right. So you might win on small moves and you might miss the biggest move. So for example, if you predict a few dips, you make 5 trade rights, but then you missed Solana did 100x. Did you truly win? I think you just lost, because you lost the majority of the profits. It's all about the opportunity cost. So how will Ethereum pump all the negative news lately? I totally agree with that. Ethereum has been stuck lately for a lot, but what you have to realize is that that's all what they do when they want you out. See, for the example, the crypto market right now. Everyone is tired, everyone wants to leave, everyone doesn't believe on altcoins, and even Bitcoin, they're tired. So let me tell you what happened in 2025 so you can create a better idea. The funny part is that during this stage here, during this chart here, hedge funds built the biggest short position ever in Ethereum. So before March, there was the biggest short position on Ethereum ever. Everyone panicked, everyone thought it was over, everyone thought like ETH is gonna get destroyed. Then what happened? A few months later, the bottom came. So You saw how here they told you at those levels here, they told you we have the biggest short position. Then the bottom just came a few weeks later. So the negative news that comes and it's popular, it's always priced in, and it's always there to manipulate how you think. Don't think those news like, oh, hedge funds are building the biggest short position. That's stupid. That's what they want you to believe. So one kind of news that I see a lot of people falling out is also this narrative that all billionaires are selling, get out, they're gonna sell, they're gonna do this. Most people don't get why they sell and what is their purpose. So a lot of billionaires sell because they might also jump on a new venture, they might donate to charity, they might do something else. And also what many people don't understand is that billionaires have different time horizons than you. So Bill Gates that is selling maybe can wait till 2027 for the crash, and he would be more than happy to buy the bottom. But what if till 2027 Bitcoin is 200k, Ethereum is 7k, 10k? You're not Warren Buffett, man. You want to make money. So people play the games of big dogs when they just started out. Like, you need to listen and apply the advice that makes sense for where you are. It's like you, for example, starting a business today, you don't know anything, you don't have any employee, and you listening to, I don't know, a guy that is giving you advice how to manage 1,000 employees. I mean, that's good, you need to know that, but you have no employees, you need to know the basics first. So that's what most people don't get. Will the USA be the leader in crypto? First, I totally believe so. And it's not that the US wants. It's the only tool that they have to pay and to move to a new system, which again, I have the video on the card on the few minutes ago. I'll also leave you at the end of this on this video so you can watch it how that would happen. It's such an important thing. Big bro, everyone's saying Bitcoin will touch 27k in October, November in case this alts. Is the same thing that I told you earlier. I don't believe so because of the motives. I go through the motives of the ones that manage all the world or all the assets or everything. Like, if I am those guys, ask yourself, you don't need to listen to me, ask yourself, if I'm the one that controls, let's say, the world, how I benefit the most. Because money is the motive, you need to understand that. Is alt season coming 2026? If so, which month? I don't know that. I can't give you a timeline because I can't know when it goes up. But in my own opinion, on the next rally, if it's gonna come this year, I expect it to probably touch 6 to 7k this year. If, again, we don't see a big crisis, which again, I'm not saying it can't happen, I'm saying is unrealistic from the standpoint of, as I said, how the world is going right now. Could you give your perspective on the best ways moving forward to invest in AI, crypto simultaneously? Like, something you have to realize is that AI in crypto is good, but it's mostly pumping you to the hype. Like, a lot of websites just put on their first page powered by AI, and that's how they pump. So what you have to realize about AI and crypto is that it's like NFTs in 2020. You can make a ton of money, but you can also lose a ton of money because you'll have also the biggest rugs and scams. So it comes with a positive and negative. That's why you have to be careful and you have to spend more time in this sector, because as I said, if you're just gonna buy something and think you're gonna get rich so easily, it's hard, because as I said, you're gonna get also 90% of scams there, because the scammers know that the hype is there. So I think the best way to have an edge moving forward is that you gotta just find the biggest shortcut, in my own opinion, is to find the most competent guys in those fields and try to invest in their mentorships and get their access. Because most people be like, yeah, I'm gonna do it by myself, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. It's kind of unrealistic at this stage to actually do everything alone, because I've had this mentality, lone wolf narrative and all this stupid stuff. But again, even if you want to do it alone, what most people don't realize is that you're going to go through trial and error, and then maybe when you're ready, the pumps would be already here, that you made nothing and market doesn't care when you're ready. Like, you might be ready at 12k per Bitcoin. Like, does it matter that you're ready when you missed all the profits? So I think the best edge is to basically have access to people that have the knowledge and just actually get guided from them. I always say, try to go and look for people that got proofs on their achievements, and not just talking. So for example, I show that I did 200x, I show the calls, I show people which you can ask about what I do. Everything is transparent on my YouTube. I don't pretend to be the best. I've made mistakes. For example, in 2025 I expected in Q1 to go up. I was wrong on that. But again, it's all about how much you capture on the biggest moves. Like, you can't be right on everything. My goal with the cycle is to be right on the thing I care the most, which is making money. Like, I don't care if I'm wrong and I say today that Bitcoin went to 1,000, it's gonna go to 260 and it goes to maybe it dips a little bit more. I don't care. My goal is to capture ETH 10,000. Like, that's how I play the game. So next question. In AI from last cycle, and down hard, close out relative to DeFi tokenization. Now, you have to realize something. Don't play the trading game. Play the game of being good at something and stick to it for long term. Like, a lot of people that jump from one sector to another, you can make money, don't get me wrong, but you have to be quick and you have to constantly be 24/7 in that sector, which I think is unrealistic and most people don't have time, because you have to understand that you can't be an expert in everything. You can't be an expert in DeFi, in AI, in gaming, in NFTs. Like, there are thousands of sectors out there. For example, you have to realize that the future is all about tokenization, DeFi, and AI. Get good at something. Just don't play all the game of going in all those sectors, because you have no edge. You drive blind through a sector that you don't know. Like, if you become good at something, you know everything about that sector. For example, I'm good at DeFi. I know the majority of the founders, I know the coins, I know the problems, I know the issues, because I've been dedicated on the space. But if you just read one white paper, you see when AI hype came and you jump there, you just invest like the rest. You don't have an edge. The investing game is all about having an edge that others don't have. How to distinguish if the FUD and the negativity for a coin is an opportunity, and how to scam VC low cap coins. So it's true that the majority of coins on the early days are hated. Some hate might come from competition, which is pointless, and some hate might come from, it's like normal. Like, a lot of people, when they make money on other stuff, they tend to love the stuff that they made money on and not the new stuff. So for example, when Ethereum came, what happened? Bitcoin guys called it a scam. It's gonna just take all your money from the ICO and it's never gonna launch. They didn't like it because it was something new. They made money on Bitcoin. What is this Ethereum? Maybe what if it pumps and I just hold this Bitcoin thing? Like, those fears actually pushed the FUD online, and it was FUD because it made no sense. Same for Solana. Solana was called a copycat for Ethereum. Same, for example, for Shiba Inu, it was a Doge copycat. Like, how you distinguish the FUD is basically everything comes down to your research process. You have to go all in depth to know everything about that coin to realize if that's FUD or if that makes sense. And it's hard, but as I said, you gotta spend a lot of time, because if you don't know all in depth the coin, the founder, the vision, why they did something, maybe they shared something on Telegram that one guy didn't like and they posted online, but maybe you don't know the truth of that story. You have to research it. Who was the problem? It was the coin, or it was this guy? What is the track record of this guy that shared the FUD online? Has he shared before? Like, that's why I'm saying that the best thing that you can do is not like a fast check that, oh, I'm gonna do this and that's how I recognize it. You just have to basically go in depth and analyze every piece of the puzzle. And I always say this thing, guys, try to do those things that I tell you, because you have to do the actions that others don't in order to become successful in this industry. Like, a lot of guys be like, yeah, I'm going to use AI to do the research because I'm going to distinguish what is FUD and what is real. You think AI is going to do that? Everyone can do that. Like, you think you'll have an edge when everyone can do something? You need to do things that people can't. Like, for example, let's say for a coin, a certain influencer said this X thing because someone in Telegram asked this question. Go on Telegram, go and see what they ask. Go and ask people about the experience. Go and see the influencers if he actually did those things into the past and he's a paid shiller. Go and see who, and you can create a better idea who's right or who's wrong. People see those stuff and they leave it because they be like, oh, doesn't matter, I'm going to use AI. So do things that others don't in in order to have an edge, because that's how you win in this game. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, turn on the post notifications, and more are gonna come.